Ho, ho, ho. Grab your favorite beverage, turn on the tree. It's time for Tinsel Talk. I'm Jesse. I'm here with Caroline and Kurt, my hosts. And today we're talking everything Christmas, specifically Christmas in July. So when we decided to talk about this, we realized July's coming up. It's very relevant. And we wanted to unpack from the very beginning, what does it look like to own a Christmas business or to be in the Christmas business and to use Christmas in July as a tool. Right, Caroline? Right, Kurt?
Yes.
And
For
how are you
sure.
guys doing, by the way? I haven't seen you in a minute.
Oh,
Doing
we've
well.
been doing fine. Thank you.
Good.
Busy.
Yeah,
But always
so
seems like we're
just we
busy.
had talked about this, Caroline, about more starting from the bottom, like the basement, which is where did Christmas in July start? From what I understand, 1933 in a little cute summer camp down in North Carolina, and they're, doing this whole thing at this girls' camp, and then it caught on as a concept where I guess in 1938 there was a movie, Christmas in July. A book. Play. That's what it is. And then the play was turned into a movie in 1940. And then by 1940, it was like the thing. Am I correct, Caroline? Is that what you got?
Actually, that's what I got, but that's a legend. And then the other two things that I got, interestingly enough, from the Christianity side, it is halfway between like Jesus's birthday, right? So there's another thing and a concept where that came from. But also in Australia, they like to celebrate Christmas in July because it's Australian winter. And so that's the time of the year that it's very cold in Australia. And so they often do things like, mulled wine, roaring fires, and things
Right.
like that. So I think it comes in from lots of different sources, right?
Caroline,
And
just
it's
real
just
quick,
caught on.
before we even go any further, have you noticed a dramatic difference in the type of Christmas decorations in Australia? I say this because we're going to have a guest on, Jake. Jake decorates, and he's in Australia. Hi, Jake. The reason why I bring it up is because their style of Christmas, when it's Christmas, it's hot there. So,
Yeah.
like literally in Christmas time when it's Christmas here. So, like they do a lot of the pinks and the nut bubblegummy stuff. And so I just haven't even noticed what their Christmas in July looks like. I'd be curious to see pictures of that. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if they necessarily decorate Christmas in July. I think it's a term. But I mean,
Right.
and I know we're going off topic slightly here, but if you think about Christmas in December, depending on where you are in the world listening to this, right? I live in South Texas. It can be 85 degrees and you can be eating Christmas dinner, outside. Same with you in Florida, same
Yeah,
with
my
you in
doors are
Dallas,
open.
Kurt,
Yeah.
right? So when I
Absolutely.
grew
Yeah,
up
it
in
can be hot.
England, there was generally snow on the ground. So, I mean, I think if you're going to do Christmas, it doesn't really matter what color you do. I mean, if it's December, it's December. So,
Yeah, it wasn't even necessarily what I feel like people have to do. It was just I noticed trends. Like when I started looking at people advertising in Australia during our time, the 25th, I noticed lots of pinks and the bubblegummy and that whole candy vibe. It seems very heavy in Australia. That's why I would be interested to talk to Jake about all that kind of stuff. But anyway,
We'll
rewinding
definitely
back.
come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
for
anyway,
sure.
rewinding back to our on topic, back to the Christmas and July stuff. Go with it, Caroline. Hit me.
Well, no. So I think when we talked about what our topic was going to be, we said, okay, this podcast is dropping on June the 7th, and it's, less than 3 weeks now till July. And in my commercial experience, the same with Kurt, I've often worked with companies and seen companies do large marketing campaigns. And the question is really, is it worth your while? Does it work, right? So I think that's where the conversation is going to go today. A lot of
Yes.
people use Christmas in July as a kickoff to their sales cycle. Personally, I don't. I sell Christmas all year round, as you guys know, and I've mentioned before in the podcast. So I don't really truly believe in Christmas in July. I think a lot of other companies.
Uh-oh. We're getting honest now. We're getting
I
saucy.
know,
Opinions
I
are getting
know.
thrown around.
And Kurt hasn't said what he thinks. But the other thing is, a lot of people use it as a kickoff and a reason to give a discount, right? So Christmas in July, place your order now and get your 10%, 20% discount. And for me is, Do you really have to discount it? Do you? I mean, do you? So
And
that's
Caroline,
just
I
some
don't
initial
know.
thoughts.
I just want to talk about this quickly. When we talked about this episode, what we talked about, I really don't have experience in this part of it. So anytime I was doing Christmas decorating it was for another company where they were taking care of the marketing. Now that I own my own company, it's something that I have to address. And when we were talking about it, truthfully, there is like a pro con. It's not like oh, this is the way to go, and oh, if you do Christmas in July, it's a sure shot. There seems to be different opinions, and I want to be truthful. I mean, I don't know necessarily if it is the best thing. I feel like it's an opportunity maybe for some people, but maybe not necessarily the best opportunity. I don't know. So unpack it for me.
Yeah. What do you say, Kurt? Just give us your
Did I
initial
lose you?
thoughts
Yeah.
before we
Oh,
move
my
on.
initial thoughts when we started talking about this topic is it doesn't necessarily work, but I would say from the wholesale perspective, it isn't something I would focus on because we sell year round. So the same reason Caroline's like we're year round business. We don't focus on, Christmas in July. However, it's one of those things you wonder, should we promote it? Should we talk about it? It gives you a reason to, just talk about your products and highlight things. Because it obviously for good reason, it's something that consumers talk about. But in the wholesale business, I don't know that it makes a difference. I think it is a kickoff to the season. I think that may start probably later in August. But at the end of the day, you could think about it as your kickoff in the season. From a religious standpoint, obviously, we understand that. But from a sales perspective in the wholesale business or even the design selling to consumers, I'm not sure if that makes sense. And really, as we're talking about this, I want to know what other people think. I want people to comment on this, right? I want to know what their experience has been. I think this would be fun to hear whatever the people have to say. Obviously, mine's somewhat limited in that I've only got 6 years of it, but from a wholesale perspective, it's very different. So it doesn't necessarily work from my perspective, given what I do.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Kurt, on the wholesale side. Knowing that we were going to do this podcast, I reached out to some commercial Christmas companies and got some feedback from them. And I've worked for a company where we did do a kickoff, Christmas in July. And I think I've got two different thoughts here, really. So kind of hear me out. From residential, if you're a high-end residential decorator, I think it's a great kind of, hey, I know it's only July, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, but remember, I'm going to decorate your house this year. I need to start shopping for you. We need to
Yeah.
stop shopping early. All of that good stuff, because most residential decorators aren't stocking up on inventory. They're buying per job from catalog, or they're going to wholesalers in their local cities, right? So we know that. So I think that's good. I don't think that they're necessarily offering a discount, by the way, and I don't know if they should be, but some of the things that you can promise, right? If you sign in July, you get the date you want. I can install the date you want if you commit to me in July. So I think there's some tactics that they can use.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Caroline, before you go any further, I just want to unpack that for a minute because that's my feeling from the residential standpoint is that there is still this stigma of talking about Christmas other than September, October, November is like taboo. And so it seems like, and this is where me just coming from a newer standpoint, that it's at least an opportunity to kind of be like, it's a little kosher right now because it's Christmas in July. It's a Christmas moment to kind of use it as a moment to open up the conversation with people because that's the issue. What you just hit on is for for us where we're not buying tons of product, any heads up that we can get to beat the rush, for instance, for people that are like, I know some people that are only buying at, like the Hobby Lobby and the Michaels and that kind of stuff. That's only available at a certain amount of time. You need to be available and know what you're doing and have a heads up and a game plan. And to get people to commit earlier is better. But, like calling people in August, they're like, what? So I just feel like there's some sense of relevance of being able to grab onto it being Christmas in July. That's the only thing that I got out of it. But I agree with you about residential. Yeah.
Sure. We do see this with Hallmark, for example. I don't know if all of you have seen that, but they do Christmas in July, right? They're promoting their Christmas movies in July.
Oh, you're talking about movies.
Year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah,
become a
no, the
huge thing,
Hallmark
Kurt, right?
Christmas movies, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if
To
you're
where-
a Hallmark fan, you may be watching Christmas movies in July, right?
Yeah, well, 100%. We've got to have Kevin on, my friend Kevin, who's a Hallmark producer. I didn't even think about that, but it's what's interesting now is I think there's one channel that's Christmas all year round now that's showing it because people love those movies. It's crazy. But anyway, back to this. So we were talking, Caroline, we were in residential, and then we were talking about commercial. I want to kind of rejog so we can jump back on the conversation wagon we were on.
No, for sure. So, I mean, I think, again, from a commercial point of view, if you're working with, buildings, hotels, commercial properties, I think you can use that as an early signing discount month. You can do a strong marketing campaign. The feedback that I actually got from a couple of clients I spoke to earlier today, one is in commercial and residential. He said for residential, it worked great. He would never do it for commercial. The other
Interesting. Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
The other client, who is a really good friend of mine, he said that he hasn't done it for a few years because he found it ineffective. But the campaign that he did was very, very interesting because he did like mailers, right? Which, that's another whole conversation. Do people want stuff coming through the mail at them? How do you reach out to people through a marketing campaign? Another whole topic, right? Another whole
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
But he was saying, and he used the term layaway. Man, I don't know the last time I heard that term layaway.
Where we were all at
Layaway.
Marshalls, I think. Is that where it was?
Layaway. And for anybody, for our Australian or English friends that are listening or other countries, layaway is a term where you can commit to purchasing something and then you pay so much a week. And so he did a layaway campaign, which I laughed at him, but then I was just like thinking, okay, so from a commercial point of view, sometimes, and I've seen it personally, having customers that can space out those payments over every month, every quarter is actually a really, really good idea. So commercial, we often do 3-year contracts. Again, another topic for another podcast. But a 3-year contract is where a customer is either renting or leasing the product, right? So it really kind of makes sense for a commercial customer to be able to budget. And some people don't want to just pay that X amount come October, November when you're
And they
sending
don't
the
have the
invoice.
self-discipline, Caroline, not to interrupt you, but they don't have the self-discipline to save that money. And
Yeah.
it's like that contract forces them to set aside the cash and to make sure that it happens, whereas all of a sudden getting to Christmas. We've all seen this for years and years at the bank. Did you put away your Christmas money? Because we all have that problem, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I know, with our other side of the business, we have a lot of customers that do like monthly payments or quarterly payments for their Christmas, and then they just do it over a year. And if you've got a customer that's spending 50, 100, $250,000, it makes sense for them to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Sure.
also it's really, really good for us as a commercial Christmas company because you've got revenue coming in steadily over the year,
Constantly
right?
versus this one lump sum. I never
And
thought about it like that. Okay.
because Christmas companies, we're cash poor halfway through the year, right? We're buying inventory, right? So we're spending a lot of money up front through the year, and then we have to wait, and we're just tapping our fingers, right? When's the checks coming in? When's the checks coming in? But that's the reality. So if you can figure out how to get your customers to pay on a regular basis, it's not going to be just such a long-term waiting game, and it's going to be so much easier. And I'm really kind of directing this at companies that do Christmas, and that is their mainstay of business. With
Yeah.
residential, it's a little different. So maybe a marketing campaign could look like, maybe you could take a deposit in July, right? And
Right.
maybe
That's where I was going
offer.
to go. Yep.
What do you
Yeah.
think? Maybe offer them, like, I don't know whether it's a discount or we will, make a wreath for your front door for free, something like that. It
I
could
mean,
be anything, right?
It could be anything. It depends probably on what's going on in the economy. So if the economy is
Yeah.
strong and times are being booked up, you got to pay your deposit now to lock in your date. You want your lights up, or you want your home decorated.
Preach,
I've already
Kurt.
contracted. I've already contracted for mine. So just to give you an idea, I've done that. I mean, this person that I work with fills up. I like the work they do. I like working with them. It's all about working with them, not just getting it done. And so I book it now, and I've paid my deposit, and I have no problem doing that. It works well for her. It works well for me. I know what date it's going to be, no question. I'm not trying to plan this last minute when this is a busy time of year for us. And so that's why, by the way, I don't have time to do it right. I'm working with somebody that's a customer that I enjoy working with. And so I want it contracted. That makes sense to me, and I'm paying that deposit. I mean, what a great deal for both of us. I've locked it in. She's got the cash flow, as you mentioned, and I think you should do that. I know in the commercial business, they do that as well, right? And that's where I think you're referring to, Caroline, is that you could do quarterly payments or however you want to structure that. It could be monthly, depending on how you want to pay it out, and it makes sense for everybody to do that. And I mean, you've locked that person in, right? You're committed to it. You can plan. It costs less. Caroline, I was thinking while you were saying this, are you offering any kind of discounts? And then after she finishes, Jesse, are you doing that? And so that's my question to both of you.
Well, you go first, Caroline.
No, go ahead. You go, Jesse, go.
The only thing that I realize about this conversation is what's emerging is there's really two different concepts in the Christmas in July world. There's the addressing it, booking clients, whatever, and then there's the discount concept. And it's really like two different trains running and going in the same direction, the same thing. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, just from this conversation, the first thing I'm getting is why do we want to devalue our products or
Exactly, Jesse. Preach.
Yeah. And so I just, it's like, I mean, coming into it and being like, hey, let me charge 20% less. Like, that sucks. I just don't even like that idea. So it's like,
yeah. When I was saying discount, I mean 2 or 3% as an incentive. It wasn't a 20% by any means. Doesn't make sense for anyone.
Yeah. And so I agree with all this, but it's like, for me personally, I feel like maybe taking from Clippa, because Clippa talked about this stuff, about discounts and stuff. And, they're like, instead of discounting, maybe wasn't it offer a service or offer like a X amount, like like Caroline, you talked about like a wreath or like $200 or $5, but not like a percent, not something so dramatic. But to me, what I'm getting is maybe for me, it would be something of including an extra thing that's not going to be so dramatic, but will have value to the customer, maybe.
Absolutely.
Because like, why do we want to drum up a bunch of clients that are going to pay less? That just sounds so disappointing to me. I don't know.
No, and it doesn't make sense. That's why I never even considered that with the person I'm contracting with, because they're going to fill the time. It really comes down to, do I want it or not? And if you have good customers that value your service, those are the customers you want anyway. We can get into that too. I mean, so does offering that in July make a difference? I think you offer that, and I know in a corporate world, you're starting in January and you want to recontract as soon as possible, because for someone in Caroline's position, you want that customer ordering as soon as possible so she can get to work on it. Number one, she can make sure she has the product. Number two, she's got that extra time. Her labor, is not as strained during that time. She doesn't have to work as, the same long hours, and she get more work in the year. And so it works better for everyone if they can make that decision. And in that environment that I've worked in, similar to Caroline's on that side from a customer standpoint, you're booking half your business before May, and then the second half the rest of the year. And I know some people in the business, they're booking 80%, 70 to 80% in the last, 4 months of the year. And that's tough. So if you can spread that out, and again, it's cash poor in this business, you've got to carry that inventory so long that you want to move it as quickly as possible. You want to contract, you want to get those payments working, you want to do all those things. However, I will say there is a discount associated with what Caroline is referring to. It's a small discount, but there is a discount associated with it. Caroline's not discounting her service, but in reselling that product that Caroline has for a commercial company, they may actually give an incentive for paying earlier because it behooves everyone, and you don't lose value, you gain value by doing it that way. And so you lock in a customer. It's not as expensive to try to get them last minute, and you're not stressing the whole system at the end. There's some real value to it. You can do more business if you book it earlier. So you'd be passing up business if you didn't book it for a few percent less. And that's what really happens there. So
that's
I'm not
a
talking
value
about
statement, Kurt. Not to interrupt you, but what you just said really resonated with me. So in reality, it's better to book the person and have it all organized and maybe lose a couple percent off of it than it is to
Right.
try and wait to the last minute and have all that crazy to try and get that same kind of client.
Right.
So
Exactly. I think
that's a
adding the
very
service
valuable
for you in a
takeaway, I'm just
service
gonna say.
business when you're talking about a residential design makes a lot of sense. It still equates to a percentage or a few percent. There is a cost associated with that extra time. There just is. And
Yeah.
so I think adding the service makes more sense though because there is no discount. It's an additional ad that doesn't cost you very much at all. What that leads to generally is more work for that person from that client. So, and that's what you really want to look for, right? Somebody that wants more on top of that. You're giving them a little bit, and they're going to request more generally.
Yeah, it
I mean, that's
opens
just
the
the way it
door, as I
happens.
like to say it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I always ask for add-ons. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm comfortable with what I'm spending and I have a little extra cash and I want to do something different that I've been wanting to do, I may add that in the time that they're here. And so that's something that happens. Or it could be anything. It could be landscape lighting. It could be anything that I'm working on. Those additional ads are great.
Kurt, so you go, Caroline, because I've been talking a lot. You go.
No, no, no. I was just saying, I just love the way that you explained that, Kurt, because, it just resonated with me. I've got something to piggyback first on what you said, Jesse, about devaluing yourself.
Yeah.
And as especially on residential side, I think it's well, and commercial too. It's so easy when you're starting out in the business. If somebody asks you for a discount, oh, if I buy two trees, do I get a better deal? If I buy three wreaths, do I get a better deal? But the reality is you're still doing the same amount of work. The product costs exactly the same thing, right? We're not getting the product any cheaper. The labor's not any cheaper. And I think when you start out, you kind of get a little bit nervous about like your true value. And I
Yes.
always tell
Oh my
people
God, yes.
price properly, because if you don't and you become the cheaper vendor, you're setting a precedent for all of these other cheaper, companies to come by. And what it does to the industry is not good, right?
No, I agree.
It's not good. You never want to be the cheapest. You never want to. How do you find out what your competitors are charging? That's kind of hard. I get asked that a lot, right? But it's, to me, it's not about who's the most expensive, who's the most, cheapest. It's about creating the value that you have to offer with your product and your services, right? And
Yeah.
then piggybacking on to what you said, Kurt, I agree totally that those discounts could be small, especially if you are getting a deposit, or that they are going to be paying over every month and quarterly. Because would you rather have money in the bank February, March, April, May? It's worth a lot more to you than just having it as one check at the end of the year, right? When the
And
job
it
is
helps you
done.
project and have some idea of what the
For
heck is going
sure.
on. I mean,
Absolutely.
I see the
Absolutely.
value in it, Kurt. I think I'm getting from this conversation is it's finding your happy balance point in all of this. And where do you navigate where you use this to your advantage, but you don't detract from what you're doing or cost yourself money or all those things. It's just being smart, I feel like, about it, So
Yeah.
Right.
one other thing that I got out of this conversation is it's what I'm doing in general, is I'm talking to my clients as we're taking down, are you planning on using us next year? What were your thoughts on
Yep.
what we did this year? But then it's, I'm doing it this year. Christmas in July is going to be my opportunity to kind of reapproach, reinforce the conversations, making sure we're on the same page. Because to me, it's this time when I'm not doing anything that allows me the ability to look for the extra stuff, buy the extra product, get all organized, get everything ducks in a row, so that when we're in the busy time, again, reaching back to that same thing of the value in trying to get everybody booked
Oh
before,
yeah.
we
Sure.
start getting into August, September. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
for
absolutely. I mean, so we went to contracting early, but the Christmas in July is part of that, right? I think that's where we saw the value in the Christmas in July. So just to tie back for everybody listening, that's really it. It's contracting early, and it could be as early as you want, but Christmas in July is a good reason to reach out and ask. I think everybody can see, when I say see right through it, I mean, it's just one of those opportunities for you and they see that. But it's really about helping them get the time they want. But I wouldn't wait till July. That's my stance. I would book it as soon as you can, that you feel appropriate with your clients. And when you book up, if you want to book that business and you want to get those deposits, you're going to do it earlier, not later. At the end of the day, you want to be able to plan too. You may have clients that need extra product. So, and you can buy them from me at Vickerman, right? So
Yes.
at the end of the day,
Plug.
But then,
plug,
this is the
plug
point
Blake
where you're
Vickerman.
not paying that extra shipping. You're not rushing things. You're able to get it on a discount because you're buying it in a large. All that stuff can be done in the glamour of the time versus crazy Christmas. We know how that is. And I just want to talk about this, by the way. Vickerman is incredible about shipping. Okay. Some of these vendors, like when you're getting into the thick of it, good luck. It's not coming like guaranteed like Vickerman does. I'm just saying this is me talking, Jesse, personal experience about what I've dealt with Vickerman.
And I
so I'm
appreciate
just
that,
saying
sure.
the ability to buy this stuff like way in advance and get in the game. Like I just got a client yesterday where we just got her deposit. It allows me the time now to play. You know what I mean? Versus
that's what we're talking about.
You guys know.
Yeah. So don't wait for Christmas in July. Great gimmick from that standpoint. It's fun. But at the end of the day, it starts earlier than July, from my perspective. I want you to start. It's selfish for that reason. But at the end of the day, I think it's more profitable for everyone listening that does this type of work. And if you're a consumer listening, book early. This helps, keep your vendor profitable and being healthy, and you want them to stay in business, because if they're doing it at rock bottom prices, they're not going to be around and they're not going to be able to afford to stay in business. And it doesn't make sense to do that. And we're talking about pennies here. It doesn't make that tremendous difference if you're going to pay somebody what they're really worth versus just getting the cheapest price. You're paying for the consistency. It may be part of that relationship. You feel, you can trust this person. It just makes a lot of sense. Those are the people I want to work with at the end of the day. They're not the people that want that rock bottom price, that need that Christmas in July special price to do the deal. Now, if you're trying to stretch somebody's budget, and I'm sure we can talk about this, Jesse, you're trying to help them get into something, and you're going to help them with what works with their budget as well.
Yeah.
You can do that as well. But you have to reach that threshold of a certain size job or it's not profitable for you. Really great for them, but not you. And I think there's a number there that's a sweet spot. I don't know if we talked about this in our last conversations, but there is a sweet spot, right?
That's we're going to save for budget.
Right. So it really comes into it. Yeah, we can.
Budget,
But at the end of the day, it does give you an opportunity to help those people. You can value shop for product that's on special and that sort of thing to meet clients' needs, but you still have to contract with them and figure out what they want. So getting it done early is imperative. If you want to help them, if you want to get below a certain budget, you have longer to find that product. So is Christmas in July helpful? Yes, it is, because you can go to market and maybe find those things you need, or at least be aware of what's available still, because what will happen is you'll be running out of product and you'll be running to some of those big box retailers, and I'm not going to use their name, Jesse, but you can feel free to plug them.
Yeah.
No, but at the end of the day, the big box retailers is not where I would go. You're going to pay significantly more for a substandard product. Because they're in the business of paying for their big building and everyone that works for them. So, and a very big profit. So you're not getting quality product. You're getting what's on their shelf that they've gotten at rock bottom prices. So if that's what you want to buy it. But at the end of the day, you can spend
your creativity, Kurt. And not to interrupt you, this is the issue, is that if you get the ability, for instance, in January, and I have a conversation with my client and they're like, yes, I want to use you this Christmas. It allows me the ability to creatively be thinking about that when I'm seeing everything, when I'm at Dallas Market, when I'm looking through. So I'm able to be like, oh my gosh, that one little thing. And you're able to cull and pull together an amazing design versus trying to throw together a design. And so I agree, this normalization that we must start getting across to America is that it is okay to be planning this vacation of Christmas all throughout the year. And we got to shake that stuff off. That's just my personal opinion. Christmas in July is fun. Have a pina colada, put up a little tree and all that stuff. But let's be talking about Christmas all year long. So when we get to September, October, it's game time, not what do we buy, which place do we go, how do we get that kind of thing.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm going to say some things that maybe some people don't like, and I
Do it.
apologize. I apologize.
Oh, please go ahead.
But
Please
that's
do.
what this
I hope it gives us
podcast
some
is
comments.
around,
Go ahead.
right?
Yeah.
If you are a professional Christmas decorator, right? Whether you're a professional residential or commercial, right? You should be selling Christmas all year round. I don't care who you are, you should be talking about it, right? People that leave it to the last minute, to me, it doesn't come across professionally, right? And I have some customers that buy from me that don't start their selling process till September. And so, they're already kind of behind the curve. Now, are you going to get customers signed January, February, March, April, May? No, I know you're not, right? Because people just feel uncomfortable. It's way too early to talk to. But it still comes across very professional if you are a professional decorator to do
Yeah.
it then. And here's the
Yes.
other thing. Professional companies don't buy from big box stores. Period. They don't. They don't, right?
Jesse,
Thank you.
don't. You're not
They
allowed to buy from them anymore.
I don't. I
Okay.
really don't. Like, I
No,
think
look, last
we-
minute you need
so
something
I think
because you can't get it fast
emergencies,
enough. We
like,
understand.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in an emergency, like, or it's something where you just have no choice and you got to pick up a little thing here or there. But it's like I was explaining to a Christmas designer who will be on the show. I don't want to say the person's name, but I was having this discussion with her. You've got to break the big box habit, because it's going to give you that ability to have creativity that you don't have right now. Everything is being dictated by what the big box stores want to put in on the shelves, and then that's what you use, versus having, oh my God, when I look at Vickerman's catalogs, I just drool and I cry, because it's like you have every endless capability and design, every endless ability and every creative aspect at your fingertips to do whatever you want to do. And so it's like, I call it a crutch. And it's just leaning on a crutch. And so, no, I don't like doing any of that stuff and using that stuff. And I also get ripped whenever I go into Hobby Lobby, because a lot of people don't like that store. So it is what it is.
And
So,
I think the other thing is that we're probably going to have some listeners, and in fact, I know we do, because I've already seen some comments from our number one, our first podcast that we put out, where people are going, I'm not a commercial decorator, but I'm enjoying watching you because I like to decorate for my house, right?
Yes.
So if
Yep,
you're
true.
if you're that listener, yes, go buy from the big box stores, the Targets, the Hobby Lobbies, the Michaels, the
Yep.
garden centers. There's
Yep.
some places that sell some really beautiful stuff. However, I'm going to go back to being a
Professional Christmas decorator.
decorator. There's a difference, and there's a reason, because we all, as commercial, professional, residential commercial decorators, we want to be buying at a wholesale rate. And I know as these podcasts go through, we're going to talk about vendors and how you do really buy at that discounted rate, right? So, and I think it will be a learning curve for a lot of people on here that have started a business and are buying from the big box stores and are starting to grow, and they want to learn. And that's the whole reason for this podcast, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
we're not picking on anybody here. We're just saying, there's a lot of experience between the three of us, and it's our goal to help every single person grow, learn something, and make their businesses better. But I'm telling you, I don't like Christmas in July. However, look at my Instagram. I probably will do some Christmas in July posts. Why? Because it's expected, right? Shoot me in the head
Yeah.
right
Well,
now.
It's
I-
fun more than profitable. I think
There
that's
you
where I
go.
would land.
Yeah.
It's more fun than profitable for the standpoint of doing that sort of work or expecting to sell. It's
For
more
sure.
fun. Right.
Yes.
We all
And guys,
enjoy
the
what we
one
do,
thing I
obviously,
wanted
to
to-
sell it year round.
The one thing I wanted to end with this conversation with is FOMO. It's like fear of missing out. And so it's like, wait, should I? Shouldn't I? Like, everybody else is doing it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's a lot of, I think, the Christmas in July sentiment, is since everybody else is doing it, let's just do it. So what I feel was good about this conversation is we really did talk about specifically how it all relates to us and what we feel about it. And now everybody can make their own decision on how it relates to them in
For
however Christmas
sure.
relates to them. And that's
For
what I want to keep
sure.
coming back to is we're not gods of Christmas. We are here having a healthy conversation to open up the conversation so that other people
Hmm.
can like us, can follow us on the Instagram landing page, can get on the YouTube and talk and tell us what you think, and we can continue to shape this industry. It's like you
Mm.
said, Caroline. Oh my gosh, if we continue discounting this stuff into the ground, no, we need to, as an industry, start pushing it in a different direction. And so I think that's why these conversations are so crucial, right?
Yeah. And for the people out there that are sitting here panicked going, I haven't started selling, do a Christmas in July. See where you get. Let us know how it works for you, right? We can have another Christmas in July conversation this time in 2025 and see how it worked for people. And maybe we'll hear some great ideas of things that worked well for people that we haven't even thought about, right?
I know,
So
and we're saying
I'd
all this
love to hear
stuff.
some ideas. I
Yeah,
would. But
what were
what's
you gonna say,
worked?
Kurt?
Yeah. I'd love to hear some ideas. If something's worked for someone, I want to know about it. I
Yeah.
think there is a fear of missing out a little bit, and I think it's more fun. But if someone's having success for it, that's what we're talking about. Like, you've heard our thoughts. Now let's hear what other people have to say about success. Because obviously we're just three out of a number of people that are in this industry. So hearing from them, maybe it's more consumer based that's going to have that feedback. I'm not sure. And I don't want to get away from saying this because before we get away from the product and buying, is that there are a number of online retailers and smaller stores locally that have good product. I just
True.
think when I
yes.
say large, the larger big box are going to have less expensive, not very good quality product. The other stores are going to have something that lasts longer, most likely, that are in the business year round or that have smaller businesses where they've been doing it for 20 years. They really take pride in it, and they'll have those brands that are really quality that will last a long time for you. And they'll last longer than you'll want to use them probably because you'll want to move on to a different theme. But that's the sort of it's a different product. It's a higher end product. It's going to be similar to what we're selling, or it could be items that we sell to these local stores. Very different than the big box. So I just want to
Yeah.
make
And
sure.
Kurt,
I'm not
I'm
opposed
glad
to
you're
buying
bringing this.
from retailers. It's the big box that I'm opposed to because I just don't think they have the quality that most of my customers, for example, carry. Or and even if they don't buy from me, they're buying from similar companies situated with quality products. So I
Yeah.
think those companies, I know who they are because I buy from them when I need something, right? I can't always order in a case of something or get it here overnight. I'm going to go locally to somebody that I know carries either the
Yep.
brands I'm looking for, could be a Vickerman brand, most likely it is, or it could be somebody else. There could be a ribbon I want from a particular company like D. Stevens or someone like that. Could be Regency, could be a ribbon that I need to add to someone else's collection that they have already done. They want to expand it, something like that. So, but I'm going to look at those local people for something I need fast. They're also going to have some sort of discount structure for a designer versus a consumer buyer, most likely in those cases. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to think that we're trashing anything. We're just brutally talking honestly at the kitchen table, and we're, opening it up for everybody to hear. So when we say stuff, it's not these broad strokes of everybody shouldn't shop at a big box store, everybody should have to do this, or everybody should have to do that. No, everybody has to find that happy balance. Like I call it high-low with dressing, where it's like you have that one expensive thing, you mix it with a couple other. Everybody has to do what you have to do. It's just, it seems to me after jumping into this now, owning my own company and working on the wholesale side, it really gives you a finesse that you just don't get when you're having to plan on the big box stores and not knowing what's going to be there. And so, like, bring it back to Christmas in July, even for people who are running their own businesses, who are doing residential, it at least allows you the ability to know what you're going to be looking for so you can start making these plans. Because relying on big box stores, I'm telling you, Kurt, like when I back in the day would do that stuff, and then all of a sudden you get to the store and there's nothing there. And you're like, well, what do I do? Drive around the country? I mean, it's like, so anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation. Hopefully, our listeners/viewers have got something out of it. I think it's been good. I think we started viewers by saying, how are we going to talk about this for 30 or more minutes? And here we are,
I
just
was
having a
thinking the
conversation
same
about it.
thing. I
So,
know.
yep,
Hey,
yep.
and we
Yeah,
even
and
got
here
in
we go. We
Australia
got
decorations. I mean,
So, well, guys, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We want to thank the listeners. And like we keep saying, make sure to follow us on Instagram, on our Instagram page. Make sure to follow us on YouTube and comment in the comment sections. Reach out to us in the DMs. We want to
Yes.
hear what you want to talk about, what you want to see us talking about, thoughts and comments about what we're talking about. That's the whole point, like we keep saying. This is for you, the Christmas designer, the Christmas lover, the Christmas decorator, the Christmas person. So thank you, Kurt.
We want to make
Thank
it a
you, Carol.
community, a
Yes,
Christmas community.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you, guys. It's been an amazing talk again. And until next time, right?
Yep. Bye,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Caroline and Jesse. Have
Thanks,
a good day.
Kurt.
Bye.
Bye.